is Algonquin, Ontario's oldest and one of Canada's largest provincial parks. We've paddled and hiked and snowshoed here for more than 30 years and seen its wilder side. Come with us and share our adventures and our passion for Algonquin. Algonquin maintains its wilderness qualities in spite of being within a day's drive for millions of North Americans. The park lies in southern Ontario, close to major population centres. It's a few hours' drive north of Toronto and west of Ottawa. Algonquin covers a vast area, more than 7,500 square kilometres of lakes, rivers and forests. It's home to large mammals like moose, deer, bears, and packs of wild wolves. Every season in Algonquin offers new adventures. Our stories begin in winter with one of the park's most elusive residents.
Somewhere down there in the forest are wolves, but they're normally so secretive that close encounters are not common. In all of our years of filming in the park, we've had only the occasional glimpse of an Algonquin wolf. Until we encounter this lone wolf. It's been curled up here for more than 2 hours. The scant remains of a dead moose are close by, but the wolf does not seem concerned by our presence, at least not yet. So we continue filming. Then, to our amazement, it comes right towards us. I stamp my foot in the snow and it backs off, but only for a moment. Then it moves forward again, suddenly lunging twice right up into the camera lens. Okay, you better come off that tripod. I think you better come off. Let's get out of here.
To have a wolf come this close is very unusual. We're not sure whether this behavior is aggression or a warning, but we get the message and move well back. And the wolf isn't quite finished with us yet.
Gotta drop my glove. Don't throw your glove.
Now I wonder where my glove is going, but the wolf will only try to bury it.
We wonder again why this wolf is showing no fear of us. By guarding the moose remains and forcing us to retreat, is it displaying dominance as though we are subordinate members of its pack? Or is there another message here? Whatever the answer, it's given us our closest encounter of the wildest kind.
From the park's most elusive inhabitant to its most approachable and friendly. Everyone who knows Algonquin in winter will recognize the grey jay. It avoids the dangers of migration by staying here and living on food stored last summer. This store food and stay-at-home strategy gives grey jays other advantages as well, as we'll soon see.
By mid-April, ice on hundreds of lakes is breaking up. Ice in any form can appear in designs that would challenge the finest sculptures. Combine freezing nights with cold, rushing meltwater, and this is the result. Thousands of these streams are feeding Algonquin's rivers, and the kayaks follow. Some of these rapids can be dangerous traps, even for expert paddlers. They do wear wetsuits and practice rescue training. It's a team sport, a welcome spring ritual for dedicated kayakers. The Madawaska is one of 6 clean, cold rivers whose headwaters are protected within Algonquin Park.
By the end of April, deep in the still frozen spruce bogs, gray jays have nearly finished nesting, with significant help from food they stored in thousands of hiding places last summer. Why do they raise young so early? One reason may be to finish nesting and get a head start on storing as much food as possible for next winter. Early June is one of the best times of the year to see moose, if you can endure the black flies and mosquitoes on your campsite. As photographers, we love bogs, and Hailstorm Creek at the top end of Lake Opiongo is one of our favorites. The creek opens out into a huge wetland that was created by pioneer loggers who flooded this area back in the 1800s. And in late spring, there's a concentration of moose here. So every time we paddle in, there's the anticipation of seeing them. Few creatures are more splendidly designed for their habitat. Those long legs can carry them effortlessly through muddy bogs, thick brush, or deep snow. And here's the image we wait for, a classic bull moose, water streaming from antlers that are still in velvet.
The cows and bulls are here for one reason, to gorge on underwater vegetation. They're surprisingly tolerant of canoes and don't seem to see them as a threat. However, at this time of year, with their molting hair and bare skin, they're not exactly at their photogenic best. They've come through a long winter, and wetlands like Hailstorm Creek give them an opportunity to recover.
Now here's a good demonstration of moose design. Those well-articulated hind legs lift straight up and down, powering it through the bog. But in spite of their impressive appearance, moose have a hard life. Their poor winter diet leaves them starved for sodium. That's what they're getting here in those water lilies that are full of sodium and other nutrients. This doesn't seem like much to satisfy a hungry moose, but here's what it had to eat all winter: bare, woody twigs. 25 kilograms each day. That's a lot of bulk, but not much by way of food value or protein. Then there's the itching caused by the larvae of the winter ticks, which attach themselves to moose in the fall and suck their blood. The irritation is now so great, the wretched animals rub, scrape, and bite off great swaths of their own hair. And in late winter, without that insulation, and stressed by cold, some may die from hypothermia. No, a moose's life is not easy. And if a sickly-looking moose like this could dream, would it dream of June and of these juicy, succulent, sodium-rich water lilies?
It's no wonder moose gather in places like this for a splendid spring feast. But their troubles aren't over. By high summer, this magnificent old bull is coping with yet another moose problem, trying to stay cool. His body's huge volume makes it hard for heat to escape. And then there are the moose flies, clouds of biting insects that stay only on moose and cause yet more stress. So every season brings its own miseries to this majestic king of the forest.
For those who love the park, the word Algonquin conjures up dreams of pristine lakes, quiet streams, and woodland portages. With a wilderness campsite somewhere ahead, it's a dream that can come true.
Canoeing has become so popular in Algonquin Park that finding your own private lake for a few days is not always possible. A quota system does help to disperse canoeists among the lakes and enhance their experience. It's Saturday morning on a long holiday weekend at Canoe Lake, a major departure point for campers heading into the interior. Several canoe routes begin right here. Everyone shares the same anticipation, paddling and portaging with a few nights sleeping under the pines, and the satisfaction that will come with working hard for a wilderness experience. There are amateurs, experts, and novices here. Long portages and heavy packs will filter out the strong from the weak, but under the quota system, they will spread out among the canoe routes, heading for campsites on lakes they've booked in advance. It's a wonderful feeling as you finally push off from shore and the adventure begins. A Canadian dream that's alive and well in Algonquin Park.
Some are just day tripping with the family, while this couple, who are expertly equipped, head south down Smoke Lake. First portage, 4.5 kilometers away. Their experience and energy will take them deeper into the park, where perhaps they will indeed find their own private lake.
We try to do our canoeing in the spring and fall. For longer trips, we've moved from our beloved but heavy cedar and canvas canoe to ultra-light Kevlar. Canoes are evolving into many forms with computer design and new materials, but a few of those, like this one, still keep the traditional design and grace that began with birch bark and will never lose its magic.
And here's what we love most about canoeing, the dip of a paddle into still waters with the forest and marshes slipping by. The beavers have dammed this stream in several places. That's why there's deep water here. We will try to cross without causing damage to the dam, a fine piece of engineering from sticks and mud.
As we saw back in Hailstorm Creek, part of Algonquin's magic is the anticipation of seeing wildlife.
Beautiful spot.
In these streams that wander through bogs and marshes, you're almost certain to see otters. Like the moose, they're superbly designed for where they live, and so curious, appearing suddenly all around the canoe and snorting their opinions of intruders. They thrive in this wild mosaic of lakes and rivers, traveling and fishing at will where the streams take them. Finally, we come to a perfect Algonquin campsite, rock sloping down to the water, the forest at our backs. Tents have also seen major evolutions of design, but our old Strathcona endures. One main pole in the center, 4 corners to tie down, comfortable in a storm.
We do all of our cooking on a trail stove. Wood can be scarce on well-used campsites. Stoves are light, quick, and hot, and perfect for cooking bannock. We have our own recipe: whole wheat flour, oatmeal, raisins, cornmeal, caraway seeds, baking powder. Each bannock is pre-mixed in a Ziploc bag. At camp, we just add water and fry gently with a little oil. The result? A crisp, golden bread. And we like to find a good campsite, stay a few days, and use it as a base for exploring.
Only a canoe lets you have such a close relationship with the land, gliding by the forest, brushing past rocks or steep cliffs. You touch both land and water, peacefully, silently, feeling the immensity of Algonquin all around you. and marveling that such a place exists.
And there are moments of pure wonder. A loon and her chicks, untroubled by our silent canoe, and for a few moments, letting us drift with her. It was tall, magnificent white pines like these that first brought loggers to Algonquin long before it was a park. And now we are passing over tangible evidence of the park's human history. At the bottom of West Bay in Smoke Lake, trees left by loggers around 100 years ago are still here and in shallow water. I counted more than 60, now providing good cover and habitat for fish. In time, their nutrients will become part of the food web for algae, insects, and other invertebrates. Meanwhile, here they lie, surprisingly well preserved.
Where it's allowed, logging continues today in Algonquin. Although it's done in a sustainable manner and there's no clear-cutting, it's the presence of logging roads in the park's interior and the building of new roads that's the main focus of criticism. These roads are closed to public travel, but logging here will always be controversial.
Once there were giants in Algonquin, including some pure stands of white and red pine. Logging began in the 1830s with what seemed like an endless supply of tall trees for square timbers. Later, a railway would offer faster ways of getting logs to markets, and by 1896, the line had been cut through Algonquin, which was now a park. Here on Cache Lake, we paddled past what was once a busy rail line to Ottawa.
By 1920, most of the big trees were gone, and the railway was serving another purpose. This was Cache Lake Station. Today, you can still walk the old platform and let your imagination carry you back.
Climb these steps that were once a grand staircase and try to remember the Highland Inn, one of Algonquin's more famous lodges, built in 1908. Visitors were now flocking to the park, and a new chapter in Algonquin's history was opening: tourism. The Highland Inn is but a memory. The lodge was taken down in the 1950s, and trees were planted in its place.
Many of those early Algonquin visitors came for the park's legendary trout fishing. But growing concerns about overfishing gave birth to fisheries research. In the 1930s, a research lab was built, and studies of Algonquin's fish populations began. Pete Addison has brought his research to Lake Louisa. For 10,000 years, ever since the retreat of Algonquin's ice sheets, native lake trout lived here in isolation. Their main food source in the lake is microscopic zooplankton. This limits the growth of the trout in Lake Louisa, so they're smaller here.
Throw them in the bin for a little while if you like.
To track the feeding patterns of Lake Louisa's trout, Pete will use radiotelemetry, first anesthetizing each fish he catches in clove oil and water, before inserting this transmitter into its body.
The small circular metallic part that you can see on the end here is actually a pressure sensor, and this will allow this tag to send a message which will give us the depth, and that will in turn tell us where in the water column the fish is sitting. And we hope to use this type of information to tell us where this fish is traveling and possibly used to infer where the fish is feeding, if it's feeding inshore in shallow areas or offshore in deeper areas. And try and slide the tag up without pushing too many of the organs around. And then close the belly up. The incision will heal, and those staples will eventually fall out of the incision.
Back into the recovery room.
So this is the recovery bin. Generally it'll take them about 5 minutes before they fully recover from the surgery, and we can let them go. He's ready to go. So there's the incision in the bottom there. And the T-tag for identification on the top.
Many days of tracking these trout will follow, searching for and then analyzing signals from each transmitter.
And there he goes.
Pete Addison's studies in Algonquin are coordinated through the Harkness Laboratory for Fisheries Research on Lake Opiongo. Here, scientists study many aspects of Ontario's fisheries. The Harkness Lab also supports the work of other researchers in Algonquin who might be studying everything from wolves to insects. So graduate students like Pete Addison get meals and accommodation, equipment for their work, and access to computers while they're here. The main office, an original log building from the late 1930s.
Now we're heading up Lake Opiongo with Robin Tapley, an interpretive guide and naturalist. While Algonquin offers many interpretive programs, Robin runs his own company, Nature Trails, with a program of hands-on science for park visitors. On board today is a family from Holland. Their first task, to see if they can hear the beeping sounds from Pete Addison's tagged fish. A microphone is lowered on a long pole.
The receiver holds still.
And everyone listens.
Okay, sure we get that. There we go. Okay, let's do a rotation at 700. There you go, guys. We found it.
Fish, we found it.
We got it.
Nice.
As a fish. You got it?
Robin gives everyone on board a special job. Monitoring wind speed and direction, measuring water temperature and wave height.
I'll tell you when to move it, all right? Can you hold it for a few minutes? Okay, you hold that. Don't move it, okay?
But the afternoon's big event is a plankton haul.
You're just going to slowly let that down, okay? Now, when they
This is a chance for children and their parents to become scientists for a day, gathering data from Algonquin's living laboratory and understanding what aquatic research is all about. Now the plankton net is coming up.
Okay. Okay, now you see all that green stuff on the bottom? Yes. That's plankton, okay?
Oh.
So what we're going to do is we're going to wash it through a bit, a couple of times. Hard work, eh? Hard work. Okay? Yeah, that's right. Now, guys, I'm going to get you to hang on to this, okay? You can hang on to that part, and we'll keep it tilted like that, okay? You guys can open that up, okay? So flick those up, okay, and then turn them. All right? So you put about half in. That's good. All right, who's got the lid? Okay, put the lid on. All right, guys, here we go. We want to get them on good and tight so they don't come off, okay? What's happened here is we have taken a net and we've dropped it down 30 meters.
So.
Straight down. These guys were my assistants. We dropped it straight down to the bottom, and then at a rate of 1 meter per second, we drew the net up, we drew it up through the water column, and then we got it to the top, we sieved out some of the water, and we detached this unit from one side to the other, and we were left with a jar full of zooplankton. All right, hold this to your eye, and then bring the specimen right up. Okay, and have a look, and you're going to see in there, there's a variety of plankton that's there. And I want you just to have a look at it. See what's in there, see what's swimming around.
That's plankton.
Microscopic creatures at the bottom of the food chain, the stuff of life on which all other aquatic life depends. Robin has given this family a hands-on learning experience with vivid memories to take home to Holland.
Our next journey into Algonquin takes us to the park's east side, where geological forces over millions of years have created a stunning rock canyon. The Barren Canyon began as a simple fault in the Earth's crust. Sometime in the last 600 million years, the land began to lift, opening up and enlarging the fault, which became the canyon. To get here, you paddle the Barren River, cross a few portages, and once in the canyon, you feel very small indeed. Today, the canyon is a silent, peaceful place. But it was once a major outlet for the great ice sheets melting to the north. Imagine billions of tons of icy meltwater, perhaps the volume of 1,000 Niagara Falls, sweeping through here for centuries. Erosion has been at work here for millions of years, and it continues to widen and deepen the Barren Canyon. And some species that followed the last ice age are still here. This nest of an eastern phoebe is tucked under an overhanging rock, just as it would have been hundreds of years ago.
Rock fragments broken away by frost action still tumble down and line the shore.
Running close to the rock.
For a few moments, ripples from our paddles create reflections and paint the old canyon rocks with liquid fire. A spontaneous display of abstract art in Algonquin Park. A peaceful, magnificent canyon with a violent and turbulent history. The powerful Petawawa River also flows to Algonquin's east side, offering wild and dangerous rides for canoeists, and sometimes leaving a warning for those who dare to paddle here.
If you are thinking of paddling the Petawawa River, better do some practicing first in some of the lighter rapids. These canoeists are working with instructors where the river flows into the quieter waters of Lake Travers.
Lake Travers is quite different from lakes on Algonquin's west side. Vast glacial outwash plains built up massive quantities of sand here. So instead of granite rock, the lake has soft sandy shores and superb beaches.
And there's an island here where, we are told, moose like to give birth to their calves. Sure enough, as we approach the island, we see twin calves watching their mother, who's out in the lake after those succulent water lilies. We drift in slowly, and she goes right on feeding. Moose are so at home in the water that they've been described as a submersible deer. A week after these calves were born, they could swim.
Once again, we marvel at their ease of movement through water and bogs, and through all the seasons and topography they will encounter in Algonquin. On the winding Barren Canyon Road, good wildlife sightings can be just around the next curve. Algonquin's east side is less traveled. The sandier soils of pine and poplar forests offer good habitat and denning sites for foxes. This mother's den is back in the trees, where we have close encounters of the more charming kind. By midsummer, there's an annual feast awaiting these bear cubs and all the black bears in Algonquin. The season has been good, and the table is set. In a few clearings and open spaces, they will find ripened blueberries, a perfect plant food for building up winter fat. Blueberries are high in nutrients and easily digested. In a single day, one bear will eat thousands of berries. We're filming from a distance with a telephoto lens, and we're not that close. But something has caught the family's attention, and it isn't us.
Just over the hill, there's a large male bear, possibly a danger to her cubs. But he's not catching her scent, he's catching ours, strange and unfamiliar. And he's wild enough to be afraid. By late September, Algonquin's maples decorate the hardwood hills. Indian summer creates soft, misty landscapes with cold nights and golden mist at dawn. It's like finding ourselves within a natural gallery of images.
Being here on a cool September morning like this, when the sun is rising and water's steaming, is to capture the magic of an Algonquin morning.
And on this morning, we are lucky. It's the time of the moose rut. When the nights turn cold, the bulls start traveling in search of females. They are restless now and almost fearless, ready to challenge other bulls. Another Algonquin moment in this most perfect of all seasons. These final, exquisite moments of autumn are slipping away now. Migrant songbirds have gone south with the sun. The leaves will fall. And Algonquin begins a season that in many ways can be just as enchanting. There's nothing quite like a good Algonquin storm sweeping through lakes and forest and sending whirlwinds into the trees.
Straight ahead! Height! Straight ahead!
Algonquin is a haven for non-motorized winter travel. A couple of trails have been set aside for dog teams, and dog teams have a long history here. This is how wardens used to patrol the park, chase poachers, and take supplies to their cabins. All winter travel in Algonquin is by traditional means. Our favorite has always been snowshoeing. And what's it like without snowshoes? At times like this, maybe it's better to be a moose. I don't think you go far without snowshoes.
The snowshoe for us is a winter equivalent of the canoe and can take us almost anywhere. Every path through the forest can become a snowshoe trail. Or you can head off in any direction, go where you want, make your own trail. It's at times like this we think about the animals who must live here in winter. We can build a fire or cook a meal. We can pitch a tent or go back to a warm motel and not have to worry about finding enough food, dealing with cold, with energy loss, and all the daily and nightly challenges of survival. This is Algonquin, Ontario's oldest and one of Canada's largest provincial parks. We've paddled and hiked and snowshoed here for more than 30 years and seen its wilder side. Come with us and share our adventures and our passion for Algonquin. Algonquin maintains its wilderness qualities in spite of being within a day's drive for millions of North Americans. The park lies in southern Ontario, has to find enough food to build up a special layer of fat that will give it enough energy and warmth to get it through the long winter night. So everyone in the forest is on a never-ending search for food, each with its own perfected strategy and the memory or knowledge of where it can best be found.
Beavers store food under the ice and don't travel much in winter. So we're surprised to find this one a long way from its lodge, foraging at the edge of a stream. That well-oiled fur coat, plus a thick layer of fat, is both waterproofing and winter insulation. We've filmed beavers building dams, plugging culverts, and just swimming around. But this one would give us a fascinating demonstration of how a beaver eats. Watch closely here as it prepares the branch of a poplar. First, it methodically limbs the branch, wasting nothing, little twigs disappearing like pretzels. Here's the interesting part. It's more efficient and a lot quicker to use both hands. Now it feels along the length of the bare branch, making sure it's smooth and free of twigs, the bark ready to eat, like corn on the cob. When you consider that beavers can also construct beautifully engineered dams and build strong houses with underwater entrances, you have to respect their natural skills.
It may look like fun, but this is serious business for anyone thinking of crossing a frozen lake, as we have many times. Algonquin Park wardens are being taught how to save themselves if they fall through the ice, and how to help someone else get out when seconds count. Some of these men and women will be patrolling the park in winter. In an age of global warming and ice thinning, this training can save lives.
Their instructors are two survival experts with interesting careers and expertise. Shannon Copenhafer is a Toronto paramedic. Charles Shaw is also a paramedic. Both teach winter survival. A basic essential tool is a pair of ice picks available in outdoor stores.
All right, so you've got a good hold of them, and you're going to plop them into the ice and drag yourself along. So I'm in the water right now, okay? When you're on the ice, keeping low and wiggling like a little worm.
Okay, I'm going to throw it over your shoulders.
The familiar throw rope that you might carry in your canoe or boat is also an essential winter survival tool.
Grab the ice. I'm going to pull you up. Kick, 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 kick. You're coming in. Good, good. Who's got you? He got you.
So one by one, park wardens and other staff who go on winter patrol go into the water and learn the basics of getting out alone or with help from a companion. And now, after filming the action, Janet decides to have her own lesson from Charles Shaw.
Okay, Janet, keep your head up. Gonna throw this bag right over your head. All right, now wrap that around yourself twice. Go again. All right, keep your head up. Hold on to the rope. Kick hard, kick hard, kick hard, kick hard. Head up, kick hard. Reach, that's it. Short little strokes, good. Kick hard, good. Kick.
Dig him in hard.
And pick.
What did she just learn by that experience?
What she just learned there was, number one, that she can function in very, very cold water, that she now has a confidence level that if this were to happen without the aid of that dry suit, she'd actually be able to get herself out of the ice and be comfortable. She wouldn't be hyperventilating. She knows exactly the techniques she needs now to save her own life if she goes through somewhere.
Algonquin holds a very special place in the hearts of those who know it well. It has survived the pressures of development that can ruin many a park. Its wilderness qualities, beauty, and magic are still here. It's a place where you can experience nature on her own terms and discover the unexpected in every season. For us and the many thousands who have paddled, portaged, and been touched by Algonquin, the park inspires wonder, passion, and joy.